one of my greatest character flaws, hesitance to ask for help. I would push myself to the limit to do everything by myself, whether as a doctor or as a father or a husband and whatnot, as a professional comic artist as well. 30 years on, I wish I could go back in time and tell my younger self, you are not going to believe how far you'll go. Hi, I'm Dr. Carlo San Juan, creator, writer, and illustrator of Callous, and co-creator and writer of Immortal Wings and Mouse. You can find me at
Your website.
yeah, you can find me at callouscomics.com, cartoonistcaz.com, and at most social media as at Callous Comics.
And you're watching
Let
and
me just
listening.
scroll down a little bit. Oh, there. And you're watching and listening to Two Geeks Talking.
Perfect. Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Two Geeks Talking is an entertainment industry interview show where we interview the creative people from the comic, film, TV, movie, and video game industries. Of course, I'm your host, Kurt Sasso. We are joined today by a returning guest. I know he's been on the show at least 5 times in the past 18 years on Two Geeks Talking. He's a man of the future. I call him Doc because he's an actual doctor and an amazing comic creator and has been doing his comic for over 30 years. We're joined by the ever-talented Carlo Jose San Juan, Dr. MD, of course. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Kurt. Thank you for having me. And hello to everyone listening to and watching Two Geeks Talking.
See, you're always a professional when it comes to branding and your own self, and of course on the show here as well in the past. You have been doing Callous Comics for over 30 years now, which is really amazing to hear. For those that haven't had a chance to watch or listen to your past interviews, tell us who you are and what you're bringing to the show today, because you're just such an amazing person overall.
Oh, wow. Thank you. So, yes, as you mentioned, I'm Dr. Carlo San Juan, and I primarily do a newspaper and web comic strip called Callous. It is a medical themed comic strip written by myself, a physician. It is, as you mentioned, celebrating its 30th anniversary this year. It's a fact that is so surreal and it hasn't really sunk in yet. Just a couple of weeks ago, I launched a 2-volume compendium of pretty much almost all of my comic strips for Callous, published by COMIKET. Originally, I had wanted a single volume, but when I gave my first manuscript, it's my first time to work with a publisher for Callous.
Mhm.
I'm so grateful to them. So pretty much anything they said, I just said yes to. When they got my first manuscript, they said, okay, this is going to be quite a pricey book if we release it as a single volume. They decided to split it into 2 volumes so that people can have a choice pretty much to get the first volume with the earliest strips and the second volume with the more recent strips, particularly the strips that were published during COVID,
Mhm.
which makes it a special volume as well. I was also very, very fortunate to ask a few friends to write some forewords.
Yep.
One of the first forwards was written by Dr. Alex Thomas from Graphic Medicine. He had some very nice things to say about Callous. Another forward was written by a legendary Filipino cartoonist, also a newspaper cartoonist and webcomic cartoonist for that matter, who writes a comic strip that I fervently followed back in my high school days. His name is Paul Medina Jr. and he does a comic strip called Bugad Baboy. As you can tell, it's a Filipino language comic strip. Last but not least, I also have a forward written by the great Super D Parson, a syndicated comic strip under King Features, I
Mhm.
believe, called Rosebuds. Among other things, he does a couple more comic strips, but primarily he's known for Rosebuds, especially nowadays. There's a whole bunch of guest art in it. During the COVID era, there was even a time when I was trying to raise funds to purchase personal protective equipment for frontline healthcare workers.
Mhm.
And I know I stole this idea from someone else, but I don't remember who it was. I told interested artists to just draw whatever family friendly middle panel of a 3-panel comic strip involving my
Yeah.
characters. and then I would write the first and third panel based on what they submitted. And then whatever newspaper income I was supposed to get from that comic strip, I gave to a charity that was trying to gather funds for this protective equipment for healthcare workers.
Right.
Because if you remember, there was a time when there was just this drastic shortage
Yes.
of, yeah, the comic alone was able to make quite a sizable donation. Yeah, so that was a good time. It felt good also to do something
Sure.
for my fellow colleagues trying to survive in the front line against COVID. If you're a fan of the comic, you could really trace the development of the comic from its earliest days. There's a section in one of the volumes that are pretty much the very first Callous comic strips from like 1996 in a university newspaper. They're not they're not the best looking comic strips, but I did include them because that's where
Yeah.
everything began. The first comic strip actually had the character that was the basis for today's Rianne, who is the main co-protagonist of the series nowadays.
Yeah.
The original main character was actually her brother Ren Nika,
Mhm.
and he was the main character of Callous when it began, and Rianne was actually a side character, his sister. And they actually weren't originally named Rianne and Ren. You can find their original names and why they were named such in the book, and also why their names had changed
Mhm.
into what they are today. Since it was the 90s, the art style was very representative of the time.
Mhm. Sure. Yeah.
I was trying to imitate a lot of stylistic choices made by comic artists during the time. There was a lot of cross hatching.
Yeah.
There was a lot of what I felt were unnecessary lines all over the panels just to make it look edgy and gritty. And, the name itself, the name of the series, Callous, came about because I was looking for an edgy title.
Mhm.
So when I submitted my first comic strip to the university newspaper, the art editor told me, "Hey, you have to come up with a title for the
Sure.
comic." Around Manila, there would be these sidewalk Bible readers.
Mhm.
And what they would do is they would, stand on the sidewalk, drop a copy of the Bible on its spine, and it would open up. And the first passage they see would be the word for the day.
Mhm.
And they would, give a sermon about that passage in the Bible. From their example, when I was alone in the student publications office, because I was a bit embarrassed to do this, I got a copy of the dictionary
Mhm.
and I dropped it on its spine. And the first word I saw was callous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt, hey, that's a pretty cool title. It's
Sure.
edgy and everything. It's very 90s.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I went with it. I was in university in a pre-medical course because I was, headed toward a medical career.
Mhm.
So eventually I graduated from university and went into medical school. And lo and behold, the medical school I went to did have a university student newspaper as
Oh
well.
well.
So, and they didn't have an artist.
Mhm.
I offered my services. They were familiar with my comic from my pre-medical school days.
Mhm.
My medical school was under the same system as my university.
Okay.
I guess they would get copies of the newspaper as well. Originally, Callous was like a university situation comedy, like a sitcom. But then when I got to medical school, because I was going through a lot, I
Mhm.
was a med student, I wanted it to be an outlet for what I was going through as well. So I kind of revamped the series, made it medical school related. I got one of my side characters who is Rianne, primarily because she had the same haircut as a lot of my female classmates. So I made her the main character
Sure.
just for relatability's sake. Interesting thing about that revamp was Cal Duck, who is currently the co-main protagonist of the series. When I first wrote him, it was during my high school days. I was also in my high school newspaper as the art editor, and I had a high school situation comedy type of series. It didn't have a title. It wasn't Callous.
Mhm.
The main character was a duck because throughout all my years, whenever there is a cartoon duck in any animated series or any movie or whatnot, my favorite character would be the duck. And before you ask, my favorite cartoon duck, there's two of them. It's Daffy Duck,
Of course.
Count Duckula. Are you familiar with Count
It,
Duckula?
yeah, it sounds familiar actually.
Okay, cool. Not everyone knows Count Duckula, but he's a vampire duck
Yeah.
who, during the process of his kind of like resurrection, instead of pouring blood into his coffin, they accidentally poured carrot juice. When he woke up as this vampire duck, he turned out to be a vegetarian. So that's the story of Count Duckula. It's a great series. I love it.
Yeah.
And so there's a reason why he's like one of my two favorite cartoon ducks. When I originally created Cal Duck, he wasn't named Cal Duck yet. He was Dan the Duck. His claim to fame was that he would, yes, he's a high school student. I pretty much made like a comic strip that was just a menagerie of animals who that were going through high school, my high school. On the side, he would take jobs as an unlucky duck, basically, an unlucky cartoon duck. So he was a kind of a daredevil. He would run through shooting galleries and stuff.
Mm,
When I got into college, Cal Duck kind of became kind of a mascot of the series.
sure.
I renamed him Cal Duck based on the title, Callous.
Right.
So Cal Duck. He pretty much was only featured on the title panels of the series and during my university days until there came a point where they decided to make these kind of like Far Side style comics, the single panel ones. They asked me if I wanted to contribute to that, and I did. So I made Cal Duck the featured character
Right.
of those
Nice.
strips, which you can find also in the 30th anniversary edition books,
Yeah.
whose title, by the way, is is called Callous, Benign as a State of Mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a two-volume book talking about Cal Duck,
Mhm.
because when I was talking about him earlier, I kind of left out something very, very important about that character. Cal Duck was your typical unlucky cartoon duck, and when I entered medical school and I revamped the series, he had no place in it, really. So I was talking with a good friend of mine. Well, now he's a doctor, but back then we were both med students, Dr. Andy Avenido. And this was back in 1999. We were in the whole matrix of the whole Star Wars Episode 1
Mhm.
craze,
Yeah.
right? Remember that time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And everything Star Wars was everywhere. And I was talking to him, look, I have this duck character that I really have a sentimental attachment to, but he has absolutely no place in this comic that I'm doing for our student newspaper. But I don't want to get rid of him. In his great wisdom in pop culture, he goes, there are so many cartoon ducks like your duck, you
Mhm.
know? Every cartoon duck is the same duck that you have. He's unlucky. He's goes through all this misfortune. He's a what do you call this? A rubbery cartoon duck.
Yeah.
Why don't you make him a character kind of like Yoda in Star Wars?
Mm.
And you know what? That was like a fantastic idea. I would not have thought of that if it weren't for him. I think the next comic strip, since I was going through a whole lot of introspection in medical school, I was having Rianne going through the same thing, and she would be discussing with Cal Duck about what she was going through, kind of like a representation of my own inner monologue, of what I was going through med school.
Sure.
Of course, I was having my doubts already, like, because it's really hard. Med school is tough. I was like, man, I don't think I can finish this. I don't think I should be here, especially since, unlike a lot of my fellow med students, I had so many interests in many other fields. We all know now, I finished medical school. I did become a doctor.
Yes.
Me drawing the comic in medical school kind of helped me get through it
Mm.
in a way. And the real downside to all this is that I didn't save any of those comic strips that I made in med school,
Oh, wow.
which is a real shame because those were the real origins for Callous Comics of today. But yes, that is how Calduck entered the whole lore of Callous.
Because you're a doctor, because you've been doing this for 30 years, I'm curious about your process. Like, what is your step by step process for creating a comic? Like, from idea to final page. Like, what's that summary for your process as an artist, as a writer, and as a family man, and as a busy doctor? Like, you must not have a lot of time to put all this stuff together.
Yes, and as the years go by, I'm having less and less time to do it. But in the beginning, I kind of had a pretty lengthy process to make a comic strip, probably very unnecessarily long because I was doing things very old school. For a great majority of the comic strips I made, they were done traditionally. So with a pencil and paper and inking pen. In the beginning, I was very meticulous when it came to my line work and everything. Like I wanted different widths of pens for various purposes. As time went by, I found the need to really streamline my process more and more. So the first thing I did was I started printing out the panel templates. So I would have a template for a 3-panel strip and a 4-panel strip. I'd print them out either in my home printer or the hospital printer. I would draw on that. So originally I would start with using your normal pencil, ink over that, and then erase over the ink. But then I remember a Jim Davis feature, Jim Davis, the creator of Garfield,
Mhm.
who said he started using a blue pencil, something about it being non-photo, something
Mhm.
like that. So I tried to do that. Hopefully, it would eliminate the need for me to erase the pencils, but I couldn't figure out how that worked. The miracle tool that I ran into was Photoshop. So I would still use the blue colored pencil and ink over that, and then through scan it, then through Photoshop, just erase the blue like magic. So that sped things up for me. And that also opened up the possibility of me actually typing out my dialogue. Since I am a doctor, I'm kind of required to have horrible handwriting, and that is actually very true in my case. Me being able to type out the dialogue was at least giving my readers a chance to actually understand what I'm trying to say. Also gave me the chance to fill in the blacks. We're talking about when it was still a black and white comic,
Yeah.
but to fill in the blacks very quickly because you just use the paint bucket tool and just fill in
Yeah.
blacks. It also gave me the opportunity to do some grays as well without having to do that crosshatch.
Mhm.
So that sped things up considerably, and it also made it easy to upload my comic strips online because everything was digitized by
Yeah.
the time it was done. One thing to note is that although the series started in 1996, I actually had a website for it since 1997.
Mm.
So I taught myself some HTML, started uploading my published comic strips online, kind of following the example of, I believe it was Dilbert.
Mhm.
Dilbert was the first comic strip that I found on the internet. Treated it mostly as an archive, so I just had my strips online. There would be people who would somehow show up and leave some comments. I don't know because I didn't market it at all, but the internet back then, I guess, was that small that people could still run into it.
The internet finds everything.
Yeah. It wasn't until shortly before you and I met,
Mhm.
I'd say around 2009. I was already done with medical school. I was ending a 4-year hiatus of the comic.
Right.
Prior to that, that hiatus was not really a hiatus. It was me really adjusting into the lifestyle of being a doctor.
Sure.
It might have been permanent. I probably would not have returned into making comic strips again, but I'm sure this is something that I believe artists can really relate to. It's an itch that you have to scratch. That's what I always say. So I couldn't let it go. I kind of dared myself, if there's any chance for me to do this professionally, I'm gonna have to try it. I'm gonna have to do something about it.
Yeah.
I knew nobody in the newspapers here. I knew nobody in the comics community. I just dared myself. Okay, let me try uploading a comic strip every day on my website, my old website, which was horrible looking. so so it also kind of prompted me to update my website as well, make things easy to upload strips too, because I remember back then it was a very, very complicated
Mhm.
process for me through raw HTML
Yeah.
to upload comic strips every day. So I tried to streamline that process
Mhm.
too. Yes, that was around 2009. I was in the middle of my residency. I
Mm.
was specializing into becoming a nuclear medicine specialist.
Wow.
My doing that and looking for advice online on how to manage my time and everything made me run into the world of webcomics. I had no idea. I had no idea there was so much webcomics out there, even at that time. I mean,
Yeah.
today it's ridiculous, but that time, I had no idea that there were so many and there was an actual profession for it.
Yeah,
Oh, and more appropriately, there was a business model for it,
that's true.
you know. So I started listening to some amazing podcasts like the one we're in right now. Even like webcomics.com wasn't behind a paywall yet.
Right.
Everyone was very generous with their advice,
Mhm.
which was great, because it really felt like a nice community.
Yeah.
And everyone was really helping each other out, not only improve their art, but to just, get the word of everyone's work out there.
Mhm.
And it was just a great time. Twitter was a fantastic,
Yeah.
location at that time. To be honest, I really miss those days
Mhm.
because of the timing of me running into the webcomic community. I made some amazing friends from around the world,
Yeah.
yourself included,
Oh, thanks.
and everyone was just so helpful to me. They felt very sympathetic of my plight of having very little time to do anything, so they gave a lot of advice on how to streamline everything. Oh, there was this website management tool that everyone was using.
ComicsPress.
Yes. But I actually never used that. I found a drag and drop, kind of like what Squarespace is now,
Right. Yeah.
but it was an earlier service. I still use them to this day. It's
Oh
called
wow.
yola.com. Yeah. I just found some free online tools for me to work stuff around, make it function like ComicPress, but
Mhm.
with far less work on my part. The downside is I didn't have the same amount of customization that I could have had using ComicPress, but it did a good enough job for me. So it allowed me to upload comic strips every day
Mhm.
fairly easily. Yeah, one thing led to another, and yeah, I was in the webcomics world.
I love it.
I'm sorry, I digress a lot. Even I even tell my students that when I teach, like I really digress a lot.
It's okay. No, you talked about the history of Callous going from 1996 now to Benign State of Mind here as your
Mhm.
newest title. And what does making this comic over 30 years mean to you personally?
I am just really grateful that I ended up here because the odds of someone like me just even having an audience just seems so unreal to me. I don't care that I'm not as successful as others or as famous as others. I'm just grateful for whatever audience that I have and had. The friends that I have made in comics, both internationally and in the Philippines, when I eventually did enter the comic scene here, it just made my life so much richer.
Mm.
Like if I'm in a comic convention here, and because comics in general is very ingrained in the artistic world here in the Philippines, because we have a long tradition of making comics for both North America and the Philippines.
Right.
I just cannot believe, like, hey, I'm at a table next to Marvel artists or DC artists or illustrators for Heavy Metal magazine and stuff like that. I just have to pinch myself every day. I cannot believe that I am here. I'm just so grateful that everything just fell into place for me. I have all the gratitude in the world for all the bloggers and all the people who there's the Webcomic Alliance,
Mhm.
webcomics.com, podcasts and everything that took me on as guests. Eventually, I found myself in comic conventions in the Philippines. I'm just so grateful for everything. And I ended up making friends, had a publication company. One of my greatest character flaws is my inability, my great hesitance to ask for help.
Mhm.
I would push myself to the limit to do everything by myself, whether as a doctor or as a father or a husband and whatnot, as a professional comic artist as well. Which is why I really micromanage my comics so much. And there came a point where self-publishing another book, especially with the 30th anniversary coming up, became too much for me to bear.
Yeah.
And I was relaying that concern to a friend. She said, "Hey, why don't you ask Comiket to, publish an omnibus of your comics. I'm like, well, I can't do that. I'm too shy, and I don't want to put this burden on other people. I really have to do this myself. Find a way. Maybe I'll crowdfund it again or something. And no, no, go, just ask. I mean, they're your friends. So her name was Bunny Luz, and I forget what position he had in COMIKET at that time. She really said, just ask. If you really feel that strongly that they'll say no, then we really didn't lose anything. So okay, and it was very, very hard for me to do it. Hey, I talked to the company owner I had become good friends with, and I said, hey, his name's Paulo Heras. And look, Bunny has, I even deflected the responsibility to Bunny. Bunny has this idea of me making this omnibus of all my comic strips for like an upcoming anniversary. He didn't even let me finish, and he goes, yes, let's do it. And then I'm like, oh, okay. I did not know whether he was saying yes because I'm his friend, or whether he felt that the series was a good enough investment to bank on.
Sure.
Throughout the months of creating these two volumes, I discovered that they're actually big fans, and that's why it was an easy yes for them. I feel like they were just waiting for me to ask. So again, I am super grateful that I'm here, that I'm here in this position. 30 years on, I would not have. I wish I could go back in time and tell my younger self 30 years ago, you are not going to believe how far you'll go. You'll end up like as a guest in a comic convention in the United States, and that alone was like, what? No, that's impossible.
But it goes back to your consistency. It goes back to your work ethic, and it goes back to never giving up on your dreams, whether it's art or whether it's becoming a doctor. And the fact that you've accomplished both is a huge feat. I personally think you're more Canadian than you realize. You put off a lot of the stuff where you don't like promote yourself as much as you should, and it's
Okay.
just like you wait for people to kind of to find you, but you have to like the small successes or love the small successes that you've received because of your work ethic and because of what you've created. So, be proud of what you've done. And I'm glad you're finally, taking that step.
Oh,
And I'm glad
thanks.
ComicEd is helping you with an amazing 30th anniversary here too. So,
Yes, yes, they've been fantastic, and I learned a lot from them too. Okay, my first manuscript, I mentioned that earlier. I felt so bad for having to put the burden on them to create this book. It was just a single book at the time, that I compressed as many comic strips as I could into one page,
wow.
in each page. And when Paolo got my first manuscript, yes, he had a concern because the book was way too thick and it would be too expensive. But even more than that, the readability, the ability of the reader to really enjoy and take in your work, that was his concern.
Mhm.
He wanted people to really have the best experience and most cost-effective experience in enjoying my work, and I really appreciated that. After my first manuscript, he passed on everything to an editorial team, which is another new experience for me. Two of the people in the editorial team were people I knew. The other one I just met. All three of them were fantastic as well. The two people I already mentioned, Buddy Luz and Paulo Heras.
Mhm.
And the third person is Antonio Buku, and they were fantastic. We had a whole back and forth on how to manage creating these books, and they did a fantastic job. And the books turned out very, very
Mhm.
gorgeous. Even the covers, because I had originally planned for this to be one book.
Right.
I initially commissioned another artist to do the cover and to make it special,
Sure.
so to say. Her artwork is actually in the back of my shirt.
Oh, nice.
Her name is Shelly Soneja del Mundo. She's a fantastic digital artist. She's done some guest art in my previous books as well.
Nice.
Because of the title, I had this whole idea of having Rian be a sort of the Japanese equivalent of this Hindu deity that I can't remember the name of, but the Japanese equivalent is the Benziken,
Hmm.
the thousand-armed deity in Japanese folklore. So I wanted a Rian version of that. But because of the Hindu roots, I also wanted it's that circle in her background.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I know what you mean. It's like you're pulling from Buddhism and Hinduism and things like
Yes,
that. Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Because it's all a state of mind, you know what I
exactly. Yeah.
mean? When it was just a single book, Paulo was all for that cover. But then when it was decided to have two books, and then he thought about it some more and he's like, you know, this is the 30th anniversary of your series. It has to be your art on
Hmm.
the cover. But you know, I was really in love with the artwork that I commissioned. Like I said, these guys were creating the books for me, and they're the professionals at it. It's a habit I have as a physician that I have. What do you call this? In medicine, something is not my specialty, I refer to
Hmm.
another specialist who has a specialty of
Sure.
that. I apply that kind of way of life to everything I do. So creating books is not my specialty,
Sure.
and it's theirs. So when they say something, I kind of, okay, you're the specialist at this. So so they said, okay, it has to be my art. Okay, so I kind of made my own rendition of the cover that Shelley made,
Hmm.
and then I made her cover the page one art in
Nice.
both volumes. Yeah, so it's still there. But then there's the problem of the second cover. So of course, we'll have the co-protagonist in the other cover in pretty much the same theme.
Yeah.
So we have a many-armed Cal Duck also. A short thing I have to say about the title of the series. You know the true origin of it now. Medically speaking, we all know what a callus is.
Yeah.
It's well, at least when we're talking about your skin.
Hmm.
There are bone calluses, but we're not talking about that. Oh, it is related in a way. When we're talking about calluses on your skin, it is the toughening of your skin due to repeated stress. So the more stress that your skin experiences, it gets tougher to withstand that stress. So that's kind of how someone going through anything tough in life is. You know, you get tougher as you experience these stresses in life. As you get tougher and tougher, going through those stresses becomes less and less taxing, or less and less stressful for that matter. That kind of lends itself well to the overall theme of the comic also.
Yeah.
So Callous is a very, very appropriate title.
It's all great words of wisdom from what you've experienced, and I think everyone going through something, whether it's their very first time doing a comic or whether they've been in the industry like you have for 30 some odd years, there it makes a difference. But I'm curious though, if you were to start Callous from scratch today, knowing what you know,
Mm.
what would you do differently, not only with distribution but audience building as well?
It would be, I think, a lot more difficult because
Mm.
I'm not sure how a community is built in the webcomic scene anymore.
Mm.
Because if you remember back then, a lot of the online income would be from the advertising
Right.
on your website.
Yeah.
That's not the case anymore.
No.
Um, I guess yes, I would lean very heavily on Patreon and stuff like that. I'd probably be using Webtoon a lot. Maybe I wouldn't even have my own website.
Oh well.
Just have my social media pages like Facebook and Instagram
Hmm.
and all that. I think it would be a lot tougher for me to stand out now. The audience has changed also. One of the very interesting things that happens to me nowadays in comic conventions is that when people look at my books, especially younger readers, they actually ask me, "How does the story flow in this book?
Mm.
How do I read this?" Like, okay, there's this thing called the newspaper comic strip. I know you probably haven't encountered one in a very long time, or if
Or
ever.
follow.
What it is that you only have like a short story in one strip. That's why it looks like that. You know, it's a strip. It's a comic strip.
Mhm.
And they're gonna go, oh wow, that's really quote unquote retro and very very old school. It's kind of like then they kind of like rack their brain like what's a really good example of a retro, kind of like Garfield or what's the comic that has Snoopy in it? Like, oh my gosh, you are right.
Kids say the darndest things. Emotional damage right there. Gotta love
Yeah.
that. You've been going to comic conventions. You're still doing your doctor because that is your main profession here. Is there a door that didn't open for you that you're grateful that it didn't open for you in terms of experience or in terms of maybe another career path?
Oh, another career path. Um, Considering I was a very avid fan of soccer,
Mm,
I was a soccer player in my university, or at least for my college, the College of Science. The name alone pretty much says that we weren't the best team in the university, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed soccer a lot. I also enjoyed basketball, which is kind of a requirement for any Filipino. For those who don't know, basketball is our number one sport. We're probably the only country in the world where basketball is king. We would have holidays for the NBA finals.
oh wow.
It's it's that huge here. But and I did play basketball in my youth. An injury, I have an ACL tear
Oh,
playing basketball. And when that happened, the people in the public basketball court I was playing with was telling me, "That's it. You can't play basketball anymore. You have to change sport." I wasn't a doctor yet, so I didn't know. So I chose, okay, I like soccer. I might as well play soccer, which is actually worse on the knee than basketball is. But yes, I did change sport and I started playing. I'm saying soccer, but I do call it football, by the
sure.
way.
No, you can say
Uh,
football. That's
I'm I'm being respectful to your
uh,
probably your mean
no.
demographic, but
We understand what it means. You can say what it is. It's all good.
but yes, played right back, and I took it seriously for a bit. But I guess that's a door that I never walked through. I was also in heavy metal band. I played lead guitar and
Nice.
backup vocals for a heavy metal band. I still dream about being in a band to this day, but it just never happened. Another door. I don't know if I should talk about this, but okay, kids, don't do this. Okay. But I did some illegal street racing when I was younger, allegedly. And
Sure. Yeah.
the funny thing is, I never told my kids about it because I didn't want them to do it, you
Sure.
know? My son was an avid football player for or soccer player for since he was 3 years old. One day, we found this go-karting academy that
Nice.
he could participate in. The certification at the end of the academy was a requirement for kids who want to race in the national series here.
Oh, wow.
But it's a one-day academy, so, and it looked like a fun thing for him to do. At the time, he was taking a break from football. He was actually doing a lot of esports,
Mm.
and I wanted him to kind of touch grass, as the kids say. So, hey, why don't you try this? Karting. It's a one-day thing. They'll teach you the basics and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, you get the certificate. It'd be cool. And okay, so both him and his sister went through that one day of the academy. His sister, we realized early on it was not her thing, but she finished she's certified. If she wanted to race in the nationals, she could. The certification that you get at the end of this academy is a requirement for carters who want to race in the national series.
Mhm.
So so there were carters that had been training already, like for a few months or
Yeah.
maybe years, just going through this to get that certification so they could race.
Mhm.
Um, and my son, it was his first time ever to get in a cart like that. When he got in, at the end of he was quite good at it. We could tell.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, they had this time trial. Pretty like a fun thing to do. Get everyone to post their best time lap around the circuit.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, you get a trophy, you get your certification, and if you get the top step, you actually get a discount from the entry fee to
Mm.
join your first race.
Nice.
What shocked everybody there was that my son got the best time.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so I'm like, oh my gosh, I have never told him about my experience in motorsports. And but yet here he is. Now he's racing carts. It's a weird thing how things come around like that.
Genetics, full circle. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Go figure.
Oh, since you mentioned it, my daughter's actually become a really good artist.
Oh, really?
She has artwork in the books, by the way,
Oh, that's
and
so wonderful.
yeah, I would say she's a better artist than me, to be honest. She's still kind of deciding on where to go with that.
Sure.
I'm not pressuring her into anything,
Right.
so yeah, we'll see where she goes.
Being young, you get to experience life, and the fact that you're able to well, both you and your amazing wife are able to provide for them, and they're able to do whatever they want. And I think that's the joy about being young, because when you get locked into something, especially for long term, if you're not really into it, then you
Yeah,
just you realize too late in life, like, why am I actually doing this? So I think we've both been fortunate in the various careers
yeah.
we've chosen to enjoy what we love. And I don't want to become a denturist, so that's why I do TV and film and interview people like yourself. So it works out. Is there a criticism you received initially that you rejected but later realized was right?
Huh. I think yes. When I was in high school and I was telling my friends and teachers that I wanted to become a professional cartoonist, they pretty much flat out said no to me
Hmm.
for various reasons. One, the competition was way too fierce. I didn't see it in my character to be that competitive in a way. But most of all, my original art style, quote unquote, is very much based on Jim Davis's art. So I was a huge fan of Garfield.
Sure.
People were telling me that my artwork was way too Western
Hmm.
for Philippine readers. And my humor and my writing was also way too Western. People will just not be into it, at least in the Philippines.
Right.
The funny thing was, in hindsight, the example they all told me was that if you're not Paul Medina Jr., you should just not even try. Paul Medina Jr., the Pugad Baboy creator, who wrote the foreword to my latest book. So I still had that dream, I still wanted to become a cartoonist. So I had to take their criticism to heart. I try to de-Westernize my art style. Since we're talking about the mid 90s, anime and manga was really taking off
Mhm.
internationally at that time. There was this anime I was watching called Nintama Rantaro. I kind of got some tips from that art style and kind of incorporated it into mine in the whole de-Westernization process of my artwork.
Mhm.
And the really interesting thing today about the whole Callous Comics art style is that when I'm in comic conventions here and people want to kind of deconstruct my artwork, they say, "Hey, it looks very Western." That's what they say. But when I'm in a comic convention in the United States and then they want to deconstruct my art style, they say it looks very Asian. Somehow, by complete accident, I have found this very middle of the road art style between the two cultures that never intended to happen. But if it is there, I'm very grateful it is.
I love it. And in fact, I think out of my 18 years of doing this, you're probably the second person I know that can blend both styles. The other would be Comfort Love and Adam Withers, from their own comics. They're based out of Michigan, but they have a
Oh,
very
awesome.
Eastern Western blend, I think, when it comes to
Oh,
their
you have to
style.
send me a link to that. That
Yeah,
sounds really
yeah,
interesting.
they're really amazing artists as well too. I think you'd enjoy it. But yeah,
Cool.
no, it's just amazing to see how art transcends cultures. It transcends. You may not even have to read the words on the page to understand the emotions behind characters, or the emotions of.
Oh yeah, that's important.
And I think that's why I still love anime and reading manga and manhwa and whatever the other version is that's out there. So I've been getting into a lot of like Korean and Chinese and Japanese, comics, because it's just the ability to tell a different story than what we're used to in North America is something that you can improve not only your style as a creative person, whether it's in TV or film, but it also helps you improve as a writer, or it helps you improve as an artist. So I'm glad you're still doing it after all this time.
Yeah, thank you. So am I. We'll see how far I can keep doing this. But yeah, I said it might have been your podcast, but I said before that yeah, I'm gonna try to keep doing this until the day I die.
Yeah.
I'll be retired as a doctor and I'd still be doing this. So although I don't think I can retire being a doctor either.
Well, look, you just have to look forward to the 40th anniversary and the 50th anniversary, and
Yeah, yeah. I
you just
mean, not too long ago we were talking about 20th anniversary of
that
this
is true. In
of
fact,
this thing.
I think you're on during. I think you were on during your 10th anniversary as well. I think just every decade or so, you're just going to pop by and just say hi and see how it goes. So as you're expanding into your 40th anniversary, I think you just need to add an extra book or two just to kind of even it out.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I'll make another omnibus, but interestingly, COMIKET has this marketing team, and then this is also my first experience with a marketing team. They made some animated clips of Callous. A few weeks ago, when these books launched at the Philippine International Comics Festival, the marketing team was introduced to me, and then they said they read through the books, so they pretty much read every Callous comic strip I could fit into these two books, and then they started writing these animated clips. As they started producing these animated clips. It wasn't voiced or anything like that. It was pretty much just tell people that, these books are coming out.
Nice.
But they brought up the idea of animating the series, and of course, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, we're very, very, very early in that. In all likelihood, nothing's gonna happen, but we'll see.
Well, but that is something we've talked about in the past, though, because I know we've
Yeah,
talked about
yeah.
animation. I know we've talked about seeing your even the first book or whatever the case may be, seeing the occasional like an episode or whatever, whether it's 5 minutes or whatever the case may be. I think that's something
Mhm.
that would be a next step in Callous itself, because that has to be something that you would want to do eventually,
Of
maybe if you
course,
could.
yeah. Of course. The main premise that I had with this marketing team was that we're not going to make like a TV show or
Mm.
anything like that. How people consume media nowadays is through these short videos.
Yeah.
The portrait orientation
Mhm.
videos, like the your reels and your YouTube shorts and
Yeah.
stuff.
The verticals.
And they can't be too long
Right.
either. The comic strip script is probably the perfect length for these reels. I told them, you know what? I've written so many reels already. It should be very, very easy
Yeah.
to make a bunch of reels off this. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
You're 30 years ahead of the curve already. Go figure. Well, Doc, I do hate to say it, but we're wrapping up the interview here, and I do
Yeah.
greatly
Okay.
appreciate
Cool.
you
Cool.
always. But
You know how it goes. We usually wing this.
oh
So
yeah, 100%.
oh, yeah.
But you're such an easy person to talk to, and you're always
Oh, thanks.
always
So are
able
you.
to give great information about your amazing series, and yourself personally as well too. And I really find it you come back on every couple of years here. I think this is like your sixth or seventh time in the many decades I've known you here, so
Yeah.
I
I should
appreciate
be
you.
here more often.
Hey, well, the unfortunate part about this is, and if people don't realize, you're of course in the Philippines, so there's a beautiful
Mhm.
12-hour time difference. So
Yeah.
it's just
Oh, what time is it over there right now?
it's only noon right now.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's midnight.
Yeah.
as you can see
Yeah.
by the wonderful lighting in my studio.
The non-existent lighting that it is.
Yeah.
But for those that want to support, of course, yourself and Callous Comics, where can we find you? How can we support you? Where can we get these amazing 2 volumes, of course, of Benign is a State of Mind with your 30th anniversary and anything else you'd like to promote?
Um, well, I don't know if any of your listeners can make it, but I will be at Super Manila. It's a comic convention, and that should be sometime in September. I forget the exact dates. And but as for getting copies of Benign as a State of Mind, uh, I believe COMIKET will have it available internationally. Uh, I'm not sure about the details yet because again, this book just launched and it hasn't even been a month. So we'll see. I'll be sure it, everyone should just, just follow me on social media and I'll make the appropriate announcements there. So I am at Callous Comics at pretty much every social media platform. And yeah, so I hope to hear from all of you there.
And of course, and I just had to look this up here. The Super Manila Comic Con is on September 4th to 6th at the capital of Pinoy pop culture celebration. It's yeah,
One Ayala, yeah, yeah. Makati City, yeah.
and this is why this is why you should say your own Comic Cons, not me.
Yeah. Oh, I'm pretty sure I'll butcher like some Canadian cities' names
You're
also.
fine.
So
We butcher it ourselves, and we've lived here forever, so it is what it is. Well, unfortunately, that ends this particular episode of Two Geeks Talking. You, of course, find this interview and all of Doc's past interviews on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TGT Media. The podcast you can find by searching twogeekstalking.podbean.com or just search Two Geeks Talking. That's TWO Geeks Talking, wherever you get your podcasts. And as I say every week, everyone has a story to tell. It's up to me to help bring that out. Thanks for listening and watching on Two Geeks Talking.
thanks, everybody.